night. In the end, when the winter comes, we turn our backs, we can't help, we're gone. This is our identity.
We lose ourselves in the spirit of things. We lose our sight when we put our trust in things of this material world, of things that fade away. Yet you keep coming back, 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 keep coming back. Keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. Of things we know.
What is going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in and taking some time away from your weekends. Hopefully you guys are enjoying some DFS action like us. We will be covering all the sports all weekend on Patreon. If you're not already signed up, please do so. Support the channel, $20 a month, and you get in-depth research, you get leverage sheets, and you get MMA action all throughout the weekend. So, of course, we will be posting everything, all this information onto Patreon. Again, leverage sheets are so crucial in the sport of MLB specifically. I wanted to start out the stream by looking over last night's optimal lineup because I want to show you guys how much chalk was involved. And if you did not cash, and if you did use the leverage right, guess what? You probably had a really bad night, like TJ, right? No, TJ I think did pretty well. I got mailed a Roto Grinders t-shirt. I don't know if I told you this yet, TJ. Just out of nowhere, I got mailed a shirt from Roto Grinders, so I'm repping it. Yes, Roto Grinders I do support. I also support Fantasy Cruncher, and I also support Daily Grind Fantasy. So if you guys look up at the top there with our merchandise, if you guys haven't already, grab yourself a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, whatever you possibly can to support the brand. All right, what's going on, Sano? What's going on?
So no, the hoodie's fresh.
It is.
Real quick, Steven, there's no rain concern in Houston. They're playing in a dome. So just want to throw that out there now.
Yeah, there's no rain concern, I think, throughout the entire slate, which is very good news. Real quick, I wanted to go over last night. Like I said, also, we're going to keep this short and sweet, guys. 30 minutes because this is a 1 o'clock start time. Less time to prepare because the ownerships actually just came out. Literally, I had like 10 minutes to update the spreadsheets, put them out on Patreon. and I'm going to be saying this for a third time. Last night, the optimal lineup had 5 Boston Red Sox, okay? We had Vasquez in there, which TJ touched on, and he actually wasn't high owned. The combined ownership for the optimal cash lineup was 260, okay? If you crunched out the ownerships, just strictly based on the ownerships, the optimal cash lineup was 260% owned. And if you look at the actual optimal last night, which would have won $250,000 to first, 125.8 combined ownership. That alone, I want to say that getting different in GPPs is your best bet. If you hand built this lineup, you are a genius because it had Hosmer, it had Moncada in there, it had Muncy, it had Kyle Hendricks at 5% ownership yesterday, by the way, which was included in our Patreon as a top GPP pitcher. Just FYI. This lineup was the optimal. I just want to reiterate, if you are throwing lineups into these big GPPs, you have to get different. It even included the optimal cash stack, which was Boston, the cash hit, and it still was different. So, yes, the Orioles got throttled last night. They put up 2 runs, and Boston put up 13, and that was the optimal lineup. I also want to touch base on the White Sox, which I also stated in the Patreon as being a top GPP play. Guys, I was in second place for $15,000 in the risk-free contest. I promise you I was at one point, and it dropped because the White Sox couldn't keep up with the Red Sox.
Oh, dude, they started off so hot too.
Yeah.
I know we talked about the White Sox being a really good sneaky GPP play, and at the beginning it looked great. And I mean, they still put up 5 runs, 9 hits, so it's not like they were bad, but
no, they definitely weren't.
Just didn't have the firepower last night, unfortunately. Also, if I know I talked about the Phillies on stream last night, I'll eat crow on that. That did not come to fruition. They could not get the Mets going at all, so I was upsetting.
Real quick, TJ, do you have your professional mic plugged in? No hate if you don't. You sound different from yesterday.
Ooh. Matt, that's a great question. Let's see. If this isn't red, I don't know why this isn't. Continue. I'm unable.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right into the current slate. So, if we break down this slate,
Mike, way better.
Talk again.
Mike, check. Mike.
Yes, I think so.
Cool. Yeah.
So, if we jump right into this slate, guys, it is 11 games. First of all, there's really no weather concerns. We touched base on this earlier. Very excited. The one good thing about this slate is that we get rid of all the aces. We get rid of all the players that should do well, and now we have an extremely volatile slate. We don't have a standout team. We have a lot of over-unders that compete with each other. Boston isn't the standout team. We have teams like the Dodgers. We have Houston up there. We have even St. Louis at 5.4 as of right now. So all of these teams are going to be competing with the top optimal stack. We have Chicago, who happens to be fairly chalky, decently chalky anyway. So I think it's going to be an exciting slate. Again, my favorite stacks have already been included on Patreon. We will touch base on a couple of our favorite stacks. But TJ, do you want to go ahead and just start out by talking about like what the cash is going to look like? Your cash stack, maybe team to target like yesterday was Boston. Is that the same kind of picture today?
Yeah, I think there's 3 teams that you're going to want to stack today in cash, and I think it's going to start with Houston going up against Taijuan Walker. Poor guy has only played 14 innings he's only pitched 14 innings over the last 2 years, going up against that absolutely stacked offense with Springer, Bregman, Brantley, Gurriel, and Correa. So they don't even have Alvarez yet. So, I mean, just that offense with or without trash cans is just going to continue to click. They're going to be elite. They have so many elite hitters. So, definitely going to Houston is definitely going to be cash viable. Again, the Red Sox going up against Alex Cobb. We saw what they did last night against Matt's boy, Tommy Malone. And they have one of the worst bullpens in the MLB. I fully expect the Red Sox to continue to hit like they did last night. I mean, Jose Peraza, how about that, man? He was unbelievable last night.
Yes, he was.
JD Martinez, guy like JBJ hit pretty well. I feel like the one letdown might have been Benintendi, especially at his 3.8 price tag. So I feel like guys were expecting a little more out of him. So people might weigh off of him a little bit, or wean off of him a little bit, I should say. But I'm going to go right back to the well with him. Another guy like Devers, I like Bogart. So I just like any of those right-handed bats against Alex Cobb. And then, again, the Dodgers. So last night, Samardzija was supposed to pitch, and they ended up going with Tyler Anderson and Guzman, sorry. So I think Samardzija will pitch today. Right now it's TBD, but I'm assuming he pitches, seeing as he was supposed to last night. So again, I touched base on it last night, but it will come into effect today. Left-handed batters against Samardzija, he really struggles against. So I'm looking at guys like Corey Seager. I'm looking at guys like Bellinger and Muncy again. Muncy's just been a monster. He was great last night. So any of those left-handed bats that you can get against a guy like Samardzija is going to be great. So that's kind of where I'm looking at for cash, Matt. I think I want to go Houston in this spot, maybe a little more over Boston and LA. But if you can get a mix of those guys, I think you're doing it right for battle.
I think in terms of ownership, you can't go wrong with the Dodgers and Boston. Yes, you can throw in some Houston guys in there, but it looks like the Dodgers and Boston are battling back and forth with the highest implied run total. Dodgers just took the lead right back. It was Boston like 5 minutes ago, 6.32.
Right, they're all right around 6. So I mean.
Yeah, we know people will be monitoring that all the way up through lock. And the one good thing I want to kind of throw in here too is that the Baltimore game does start earlier than the Dodgers, which means if you're a chalk donkey, you will probably start guys from Boston because you don't like the uncertainty of the lineups from the Dodgers and the uncertainty of Houston, which is later in the day. What time does Houston start, actually? Are they all the way down here?
Houston's on at 4.
Houston's on at 4. Oh, there they are. Okay, yeah. So 4 o'clock. So, yeah, I mean, Boston's definitely going to be the higher owned. They're going to carry probably the highest owned guys on the slate. So people will also probably overreact to the 13 run total. It could happen again, but it probably won't because 13 runs is pretty darn good, even if they're going up against Cobb and a worse bullpen. 13 is pretty outlier performance just for any team. So, yeah, I think Boston is a safe way to go. I think the Dodgers and Houston are definitely one-offs. In terms of, like, your one-offs, or maybe we can switch to pitching, because pitching is a very questionable topic here on this slate. Not straightforward. Like last night we were able to target somebody like Verlander and some of these other mid-range pitchers, but here I feel like you can go anybody. But for cash, what are your thoughts on cash for pitchers?
Well, I think your safest bet is probably getting Yu Darvish and Lance McCullers. Lance McCullers didn't play last year coming off John surgery in 2019. But so far in his career, 26.6% strikeout rate with a 12% swing strike rate. Got a great matchup against that Mariners offense. It's more like a AAA, lineup at this point. Verlander pitched pretty well against him last night, letting up 2 runs. I expect McCullers to do the same. I'd be interested to see how many innings he goes. We hope for 6, but we'll have to see on that pitch count, especially for a guy coming back from Tommy John. But at that $8,500 price tag, I definitely like him as more of a cheaper option. And then Yu Darvish against the Brewers. We saw what he did last year in the second half of 2019. He was absolutely incredible. He had a 38% strikeout rate with a 2.2% walk rate. That's insane. Mm-hmm. Control, he was unbelievable last year. And opponents hit .199 against Yu Darvish after the All-Star break in 2019. And 2.2% walk rate, absolutely insane. So he's coming off a hot end of 2019. It's a tough Brewers lineup, but I definitely like Yu Darvish at home, especially after what Hendricks did to them last night.
Oh, he was a monster.
Yeah, he was great. I know you were all over him.
Complete game, too, I believe.
Maybe that wakes the Brewers up a little bit, seeing as how poorly they hit. But we saw Hendricks mow him down last night, so I'll take my chances with Yu Darvish. I think those two will carry a decent amount of ownership in terms of cash. And then, a guy like Zach Wheeler starting for Philly against Miami, I think he's going to carry a decent amount of ownership. He might be the highest owned guy, honestly, at 10-1. So yeah, I think those are your safe plays for cash. Like I said, I like McCullers, and I think I like Yu Darvish, but if you want to save a little bit and go to Zach Wheeler against Miami, I guess I wouldn't hate that either. It's pretty. You have your 3 studs, I feel like, for today on in terms of cash. So I feel like that's the direction you want to go.
Like I said, you can literally go so many different directions with these pitchers because right now, in terms of ownership, it's showing a different picture than what you just talked about. But I don't think these ownerships are quite accurate yet. Right now, it's showing Shoemaker as the top, which I get because he's going against Tampa Bay, and is that price tag is actually very intriguing. Mike Minor is up there as well, Texas. He was killing it last season, at the beginning of last season. Hopefully history repeats itself. He's going against a Rockies lineup who is just horrible at strikeouts. I mean, they are, I guess you should say, really good at striking out. They have a very high strikeout rate. Colorado, almost all their players are above 20%. And Mike Minor, I know he isn't a strikeout pitcher, but he just very good control, can keep a game low in terms of scoring. I do like Mike Minor. Another safe option, Yu Darvish, you already touched base on. He's hovering up there around the top of the board in terms of ownership, and he is the most expensive pitcher on the slate, which means he'll carry ownership just because of that reason. Bundy's up there too. Matz. I mean, you can go all up and down this list, and you can make a case for half of these guys. Also, going down the list, I mean, Sean Manaea, a fantastic pitcher, going against the Angels. If history repeats itself again, very high strikeout rate team from last season. So, again, very GPP oriented. I feel like in general, just a slate. I mean, you can go any direction. Like I said, the ownership on Verlander was around 61%, I believe, in cash yesterday. You won't see a pitcher above, I'd say, 40% on the slate. 30 to 40%, no way. So so many different directions you can go. And I do like Mccullers. Mccullers is projecting at 0.1%, which obviously isn't accurate. I don't think any pitcher is going to be 0.1%. Definitely going to be higher than that. So coming off of Tommy John surgery, I do suspect, people will be scared off of him. I like him more for GPPs, if I had to say. I don't think he's necessarily quote-unquote safe because of that reason, but we'll see. We'll see. I think ownership's going to surprise us with a lot of these pitchers. I mean, we're getting a bunch of questions. You want to touch base on some of these questions?
Yeah, what do we got? I honestly haven't even had the tube up.
Oh, okay. So, first question, what pitchers y'all liking for GVP? Just covered that. Hoskins and Acuna looking good also. Yes, Hoskins is actually more on the chalky side. Acuna is not as much. I think because of his price tag. I have to go back and look at his price tag. I'm purposefully not touching base on a couple of these teams because they are very, very sneaky GPP. We got through the chalk. Like I said, guys, do not be afraid to take a stab at some of these run totals around the 4 to 5 range. Those guys are extremely sneaky. Coming in at bottom of the barrel price tags, or not price tags, ownership. The ownership never makes sense in baseball. Like I said, the public will gravitate to the top 2 to 3 over-unders, which me and TJ talked about. Take a stab at the White Sox. Take a stab at Texas. Take a stab at Chicago. I mean, these guys will come in at very low ownership, and it makes sense when they appear in the optimal. You will be at the top of all your contests, which I was for a second yesterday, $15,000 with the White Sox.
Ish.
Nice looking Toronto stack. Sano, shut up. We're not talking about Toronto on the stream because that is exclusive. Bundy. Do I like Bundy? I don't like him because I'm an Orioles fan, but I like Bundy today because of his ownership. A middle ground, I can see a case for him. I think there are better options than Bundy. I really do. He's not that great of a pitcher. In terms of ownership, though, I mean, if you can fit it in with a lot of these high owned batters, I really do like him for that reason only. All right, St. Louis and Boston will be super high owned, huh? Well, St. Louis isn't coming in at that much ownership. Let me go to them real quick.
No, just Boston. It's gonna for cash. It's gonna be Boston. It's gonna be LA, and it'll be Houston.
So yeah, St. Louis sneaky.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, actually, St. Louis put up a very good run total yesterday, 5 to 6 runs, I want to say, and their studs in the lineup showed up big time. Like Molina, I think got a nice 5 points. Goldschmidt got like 20. Carpenter, I believe, got 14. And then the end of their lineup here, O'Neill got 14 as well. So there were some relays that got started, and then a lot of home runs hit in the middle to the back part of their lineups there. So I do like St. Louis as being sneaky again.
I got a sneaky team. Actually, not really. And I see
What's my ownership? Good question, Sano. Let's look at Minnesota. Sano is sitting at 7.5%. You were talking about that earlier.
What?
Miguel Sano being a sleeper. He always
Right.
is a sleeper.
I see a lot of people talking about the Brave stack, Matt, or at least two people talking about Albies and Acuna, and I really like the Braves today against Steven Matz. He struggles a lot more against right-handed batters, and he gives up a lot more hard contact. So for a guy that's very volatile, and we've seen over the past Steven Matz be a very great pitcher. He can go out, give you 7 strong innings, but we've also seen him blow up in the first inning. So it's pretty all dependent on how he starts that first. But right-handed batters against him, so I'm looking at guys like Acuna. I'm looking at Albies, Azuña. So I'm definitely going to have some Brave stacks starting with those 3 guys, and then probably throwing in a guy like Freddie Freeman, even though it's lefty on lefty. Lefties have had success against Matz, but I'm leaning more toward those right-handed batters, especially those power guys like Acuna and Albies, and Azuña for sure.
Again, I sound like a broken record, but if you look at the ownership drop-off here from a 6-run team to a 4.5, which is Atlanta, I mean, you're talking about 7, 4, 6%, 0.1%, 2%. Why?
That's crazy, and it's a great matchup against Matz. So
Great matchup.
If he comes out and struggles in that first inning, man, they're going to absolutely blow them out of the waters, and they're just going to have a huge day.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm going to touch base on the flip side, too, because we have another 4.5-run total, even lower ownership here with the Mets. The price tags are very cheap, and they allow you to get to them. I mean, you guys can make a case for all these teams. With baseball, that's generally the case. Atlanta and the Mets, they also play at 4 o'clock. Any one of these teams playing at 4 o'clock are going to carry less ownership in general, especially with stacks. If you grab if you grab a low-owned stack here at the very end and they end up being in the optimal, you are making a case for a very good takedown. Big takedown.
Big time.
And I just want to reiterate, we're going to be getting off here in about 9 minutes because we were scrambling yesterday to make our own lineups. We want to give ourselves a little bit more time and update Patreon. So if you guys haven't already, again, $20 a month gives you leverage sheets, our favorite GPP stacks. Also, Michael, thank you so much for the subscription. Forgot to mention that earlier. If you guys haven't already, again, $20 a month, probably the best value in the whole industry. You'll pay $30 for an optimizer alone, and you don't get half the content that you get with us.
Matt, any interest in these Rockies?
There is. Again, it's one of those hit or miss kind of games. I said that yesterday with Chicago, and it was definitely a miss because the pitcher showed out in that game. I feel like this is another one of those games. I mean, they're playing at Texas. Texas is a great ballpark in general for hitters. However, the pitchers in this game are very, very scary. 4.22 and 4.78 run totals. So Vegas doesn't know what to do with them. They're pinning them in that awkward range. It could be a make or break slate for sure. I like Colorado, and I also like Texas. I do say I like Colorado more for their upside because of their ownership projections. There's virtually nothing on that Colorado team.
Yeah. And Mike Minor, I mean, he's going up against those guys, Story, Arenado, all those scary bats for the Rockies. But just being away from Coors Field, I feel like it's just a completely different offense. And right, so I mean, you're in Colorado with the high elevation and things like that. And Minor posted some great numbers last year against lefties and righties with a great swinging strike rate. So I actually kind of like Mike Minor as a GPP play for pitchers. I kind of think that's the way I'm leaning. The Rockies could obviously have a great game, but I think I'm leaning more toward the Rangers pitcher opposed to the Rockies bats.
Like I said, the question mark game is definitely going to be this one. What's going to happen in this Colorado-Texas game? Huge potential for a lot of runs, but also not on the same token there. So Colorado, their price tags, $5,700, $5,400, $5,000, $45,000. Why are they priced like they're the highest scoring team by far, projected total team on the slate? They always are, which makes them so low owned. We know Colorado, they were so streaky, and because of it, you can definitely talk about them being in Colorado because of it. A lot of their stats are skewed too. If you go back to Plate IQ and you look at their stats, they're all green. It looks like they're just the best hitters in the whole league, which some of them are. But again, Coors Field. Their stats are always skewed, always. All right. Let's talk some questions. What's up?
Yeah, go ahead. Go with questions. I was gonna ask your favorite GPP pitcher, but
GPP pitcher, Giolito was a complete miss yesterday. I'll
Giolito?
admit it. But again, that's why it's GPP, right? It's a hit or miss
Hey.
kind of thing because they're going up against a scary Minnesota team. I also had Hendricks as my second favorite, so I mean, literally, I was hit or miss yesterday with my pitchers. Let's go ahead. I will say McCullers. I will say right now, if the ownership stays low on him, is my favorite. And Manaea, Sean Manaea.
What are you seeing as the ownership for him?
Well, right now it's 0.01, so that's not accurate.
Yeah.
Oh, it just got updated. Oh, never mind. I got excited.
30, right?
Oh, I need to update these ownerships on Patreon. McCullers is still he's at 0.01. They didn't update again.
I think my favorite GPP pitcher is going to be Mike Minor. It scares me, but I'm gonna do it.
Like I said, Minor's showing pretty high, so Minor might end up in that soft spot. Like it can make or break you in cash games and GPPs. That game's just scary in general.
I think one of those pitchers down in Texas is going to have a good game, whether it's John Gray or whether it's Mike Minor. I think one of them is going to show up.
I like Manaea and I like McCullers. Those are going to be my favorite GPP options.
So now ask Bellinger or JD.
Why are you picking between those two, man? That's just tough. You're going to put yourself through a lot of stress. For cash, it's definitely going to be Martinez, JD.
Yeah, I think JD for cash.
Both of them are decently owned.
Yeah, that's a tough.
I'll say Belly for GPPs.
I would say JD for cash and then save a little bit of that money. That's probably what I would do. You're saving $500, so $400.
Who's the best cheap GPP pitcher? Good question. Let's look at that. Starting from the bottom, we got. I like Caleb Smith. He's sneaky.
I was gonna say Caleb Smith, but I don't know.
Steven Matz. Never mind. I don't like him.
Steve Matz is gonna get rocked.
Yeah.
He's gonna get.
Who am I kidding?
The Braves are gonna hang. The Braves are gonna hang at least 8 on Steven Matz. I was this confident about the Phillies yesterday, though. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go overweight on the Braves. The Braves are gonna do what the Phillies did yesterday. I'm gonna be underweight on Philly because I'm gonna be biased off of my prediction with them yesterday. Real Muto is going to hit 2 home runs. Bryce Harper is going to go 3 for 4, and the winning GPP lineup will have a Philly stack against Caleb Smith. That's what's going to happen because that's DFS, and so that's my bold prediction. Someone snippet that so that we can play it back tomorrow.
Oh, I already played back on YouTube. I actually slept. I used it as like my my way of falling asleep last night of TJ telling me how great I was on stream. On YouTube last night, so we're gonna save another clip about Hap. So I wanna toot my own horn. Yesterday, Hap was my GPP play. He hit a home run, guys. Just saying. He drove in another run. Let's see what he's looking like now. Chicago. Why can't I find him? There's so many teams to go through. Chicago. He's hitting in the back spot in the ninth spot again. Yeah, he's in another good matchup. Yep, I like Hap yet again. I like Chicago. Chicago's in a great matchup. Chicago's also going to be relatively chalky. When I say relatively, I mean in GPPs, they're going to carry a decent amount of ownership. Everybody is thinking they're going to be sneaky in GPP by taking Chicago and not the Bostons and the Dodgers stacks. But they're going to be like around 10% owned, which in GPPs that's a huge deal if you can go down to somebody who's going to be unowned.
I really don't like any of these cheap pitchers, honestly. I think Martin Perez for the Sox obviously offers you the best leverage for these cheap guys just because he's playing on a team that's minus 220 money line. So you're hopefully looking for him to at least get a win, but he's not really a strikeout guy and could definitely get rocked against some of those young lefty batters for the Orioles. So I feel like he's probably your best bet for a cheap option just because he's in a great spot in terms of sorry, I meant righty batters for the Orioles, but I think he'd be your best bet to secure a win. Like you'd feel safe to get those points as long as the Sox can be up when he leaves the game. So I don't know if you agree with me, Matt, on Perez, but I don't like any of these cheap pitchers today. I really don't. I think they're all in pretty tough spots against some great hitting lineups.
I'll tell you what the optimal is going to be. The optimal is going to be 2 mid-range pitchers or a very expensive pitcher mixed with a lot of batters. It's going to be a lot of salary left over on the batters. The optimal lineup is going to have $47,000 in salary. Watch, book it. I will pull it up tomorrow, and I'll pull up the optimal tomorrow and show you guys.
Someone said Michael Brantley is so cheap. He is so cheap. Roster Michael Brantley. Simple as that.
All right,
Ooh,
the Nightbot doesn't like caps, so
wow,
FYI.
guys, don't caps because
Yell at
Nightbot's.
us.
But yeah, Michael Brantley, cheap. Yeah, McCullers a good option. Yes, he's a good option. Martin Perez is scary, but yeah, it's a good option for one of those cheap guys. Alex Wood, huh?
Yeah, Alex Wood is not a bad option too. There's so many pitchers.
Alex Wood.
And also, guys, it is 12 o'clock, which means we are going to get off here like right now. Usually we are on stream for about an hour. During the week, we have a lot more time to kind of sit back and observe the ownerships and stuff like that. But ownerships, like I said, came out 10 minutes before I got on stream, so we kind of had to cram in a little bit of research. Nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. TJ, do you have any final thoughts before we get off?
Yeah, quick overview. Cash pitchers, Yu Darvish and McCullers. And then if you don't want to spend up for Darvish, I think you're pretty safe with Zach Wheeler going up against Miami. And for bats, I think you want to stack Boston for cash. Again, they're north of a 6 team total for runs. And then, mix in some Dodgers and some Astros if you can, preferably Michael Brantley. So yeah, I think you can't go wrong with any of those 3 teams in cash, or two of those 3 pitchers in cash as well. It might be tough. You might have to get some of those cheaper guys for the Red Sox, like a Perez again. But yeah, I think that's where I'm thinking. And go Braves.
GPPs.
Can't pronounce baseball names at all. Sorry, Peraza. Put it right down. Go ahead.
GPP stacks at the very end of the slate are going to yield you the most risk and reward. Keep in mind that a lot of those teams at the very end of the slate do have low run totals, but again, MLB is the most volatile sport by far, next to NFL and now League of Legends. So don't feel afraid to go ahead and take some chances, guys. The optimal stack yesterday was chalk with some very low-owned guys. You won't get that from hand building. You guys do. If you want to sign up for an optimizer, I do recommend Fantasy Cruncher. Again, we are in talks, you guys already know, with Fantasy Cruncher about getting you guys some deals. So if you guys also sign up on Patreon, $20 a month, you guys get all this and more. And you also get a community which talks about DFS literally 24/7, Daily Grind Fantasy. Check up in the top right. And with all that being said, my favorite line, have a great rest of your weekend, and let's cash.
Love you guys.
Saving